So first of all, congratulations on the launch of your new company, House of Stems.
Thank you.
What's it all about? Tell us about it.
Oh, House of Stems is all things flower pistil, which is my brand, and more. It basically takes the flowers that I've spent a long time working on developing, and I use for my own business, and I'm making them accessible to florists across the country. So we're basically taking the big driver of this company is my iridescent anthurium, which you can see them right here. I'll actually pull one out for you.
Oh, cool.
So right here is this is like 3 weeks old, and it still looks like this is a real flower.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's still super stiff. This is a real stem, but this is 3 weeks old. And so usually these are only delivered to, most of my clients are really high profile and celebrity clients. And, you know, they're the only ones that really have access to these right now. But with House of Stems, I'm going to be able to create tons of them and have them ready to buy off the shelf for florists around the country. Because it's just not feasible for florists to sit in their studios and paint these by hand themselves. Because a regular florist needs to generate like 25 to 30 orders a day just to kind of like their needs, you know, just for basic living expenses. So this will hopefully elevate the industry in terms of like what's possible in design, and also allow florists, like gives them room to create, you know?
One thing that I was so mind blown about is that you're a self-taught florist, and you said you were always an artist, but you studied psychology in school, I read, and you did event planning. Like, how did you become a botanical artist? Like, how did this come to be, and how did flower pistil begin? Like, I was just so mind blown by that.
In so many ways, I feel like it chose me, and like I was just open to it. I've always been an artist. I've always painted on the weekends. I had gone the corporate route with the psychology degree, and I was working for a consulting firm. I was doing event planning, but I was also doing like business development research and working with certain, you know, clients in finance. And somewhere along the line, I just stopped painting altogether. All of my art supplies just like sat in a box underneath my bed. And one day, my boss at the time, he asked, he's like, you know, what are you working on? Are you starting painting? And it wasn't until he asked that I realized I hadn't been painting in a long time. And I think that's when things took a turn for me, career-wise, because I realized, as much as I loved my job, that I didn't want to be my boss. And if that's the trajectory I'm on, and I'm going to end up being my boss if I stay in this line of work, like that, I knew that wasn't for me. And I felt really lost. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I knew I wanted to do something creative just because it made me feel so alive. You know, I wake up in the morning and I rarely need coffee in the morning because I'm just like so excited to be alive and get out of bed.
Love that.
And, you know, I arrive at the flower market and I'm like bouncing up and down, you know, it's like, it's just sort of, I can't help but be super excited and happy every day. That's like going back, I basically was like, I love flowers. Flowers have always been a huge part of my life, you know, for everyone. It's, as human beings, flowers sort of punctuate all of our big milestones. They're at weddings, you know, their graduations, their birthdays, their proposals, you know, their funerals. There is something about flowers that humans gravitate towards, and it just brings us joy. And I was like, I think that's what I want to do, you know? And so I started going downtown, and I actually took a minute. I went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and then I came back and I was like, okay, I'm really going to do this florist thing. Cause like I was going to be a florist, and then I was like, let me think about it while I'm climbing this mountain. So then I'm climbing and I'm like, okay, I think I'm just going to do it. So I started doing it, and I was trying to do everything like traditional. And at the time I couldn't afford a floral class. And so I had to be self-taught. So I would walk around downtown and talk to all the vendors and ask them how to process flowers and introduce myself. And I just started making things for myself, not for other people. And one day I like opened up my closet and there are all these paints. And I was like, I wonder I wonder if I could paint these things.
Oh
And
my
so I
goodness.
had, some spray paint, I had dyes, and I just went for it. And I started posting on Instagram, and then it really started to get traction. And that's sort of how Flower Pistol was born.
Obviously, Katy Perry's, reveal and, full bloom. We've had a lot of things in 2020, but what has it been like doing all these things, launching a new business, having Flower Pistol and doing all these other ventures during a pandemic? And it's awesome because you have flowers which could bring people joy and happiness and all of these things during such a tough time. But how has it been for you from like a business perspective and creative perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in the beginning, everyone was sort of frozen. What do we do? We can't do anything. We're shutting down. Everyone go home, stay in your home. Mm-hmm. And no one was doing anything. No one was buying anything. And everything was just frozen. I think over time, flowers have been like a way that people are connecting with each other. And I know some of my other contestants, like they've had a huge uptick in floral deliveries. And it's because instead of going to someone's birthday and giving them a hug, you can't do that anymore. So people will send flowers instead. And, what I do is all of my flowers are highly customized. So like, they feel like every little stem was thoughtfully made just for you. And so like, it's like a huge hug that sits on your table.
Yeah.
And it reminds you every time you wake up, like, oh my gosh, this person is, was so thoughtful and sent me these flowers. And it's about creating special memories, even in darkness. And there have been so many big clouds that have really cast a shadow on 2020, but flowers will always create joy. And I think that people are really embracing flowers and starting to send them to each other. And then also I've noticed with micro weddings, people are having much smaller weddings. And instead of, their budget, they still have the budget because they've been saving for years probably.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that people are putting more of their budget into the floral designs. So they'll have, fewer guests and they'll do really opulent flowers.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of a trend we might see in 2021. I also think color is going to be huge. We're talking about when and if we come out of this, not if, but when we come out of this dark space, people are going to be, excited and want to celebrate, and there will be color. And I don't think things are going to be so muted. I think people are going to say, we're having a party. And I think that we're going to see a lot of color in 2021, 2022. A lot of celebratory, loud, exciting, bright colors.
What is your all-time favorite flower? If you had to choose one flower.
Oh my goodness. That's like asking, I'm not wearing my flower mama necklace, but I have a flower. That's like asking someone their favorite child.
You can pick more than one.
Okay. Anthurium are very near and dear to my heart because they can literally take on anything, like anything. Like they handle all of the stuff that I put them through. I cover them in pearls and crystals, and they're still really happy. So, and like I said, this one is 3 weeks old. So anthuriums, and then honestly, beautiful garden roses. Like this is just stunning, right? Like look, this is my hand next to it. It's just, it's just huge. Like it's, and they smell amazing, and they just sort of connect. As much as I use paint, garden roses just bring me back down. And like, I always have dirt underneath my fingernails. And as much as I'm an artist, I'm still also a florist. And so garden roses just sort of like smell like the earth to me, like fresh and like after rain. And I think when designing, you can't get too far away from Mother Nature because then you lose the art of floristry. So as much as I do love using paint, it is a fine line. You have to preserve Mother Nature's beauty and also add your own spin on it. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to say, I know it's basic to say garden roses, but garden roses just for me are amazing.